This is a series where I detail how I met my soulmate, and it's probably going to be a 3-4 part series, 10-minute videos each. If you're so inclined and you want to hear how I manifested my soulmate and what it feels like to have a soulmate, keep watching. If you're not interested, keep scrolling. So anyone who knows my background knows that I was in a narcissistic relationship for a year, and coming out of that relationship, it was like this head spin of what just happened to me. What is a narcissist? Wow, like all my intuition, everything that I thought that was happening was actually happening in the relationship, and I totally ignored my intuition. And what is my intuition? And I went through like a 7-month healing journey where I dated very minimally. I talked a lot about the things I learned in dating on this app. I detailed all the things I was learning about narcissism, the red flags of narcissism. I took that on the streets and I used my field research to locate narcissists and to realize when somebody was toxic and when my feelings, like my intuition was telling me that they were toxic, my body was telling me they were toxic. And I also created like a breakup cheat sheet, which is a series here on TikTok, and it's also for free on YouTube. But like, I created so much in that 8-month period. Like, I had this renaissance of creation on this app, and a lot of you followed me as I went through all of these changes and like all this evolution. So towards the end of that evolutionary period, I was on Bumble. And the only reason why I went on Bumble is because my sister, who's been single for 10 years, she's 2 years younger than me, she came over one day and was like, what apps are you on? And I'm like, ugh, they're awful. I just went off all of them, which was true. I was on Hinge and I was on Match.com, and Match is actually where I met my narcissistic ex-boyfriend. And I went on a couple dates from those apps during that 8-month period, and it just was like getting exhausting, and I wasn't matching with any cute guys. Hinge was an absolute nightmare. Like, the men I was matching with on Hinge just made me feel like an absolute troll of a human. And I was just like, there's no hope for me on these apps. I'm not going to meet somebody on an app. I don't know where I'm going to meet somebody, but I don't think it's on an app. So I went off all apps, and she came over one weekend and she was like, you need to get on Bumble. And I don't like the idea that the girl has to reach out to the guy. Like, to me, I like a pursuer. I like a masculine man. I am too busy with work and single parenting to like chase after a man. And so for me, it was just like, no, like, I want a man to pursue me. But she added me on Bumble this one night, took my phone, literally created a profile, picked pictures, and I was just laughing it off. I was like, whatever. And then I forgot about the fact that she had added Bumble on my phone. And late that night, as I was like laying in bed scrolling, as one will do, I started getting all these notifications on Bumble. And so when I was on that app for a couple weeks, it was super busy. It was chaotic, but I was attracting like a much higher caliber of man. So totally recommend Bumble for anybody who wants to try apps. I do need to mention that in the like 4 or 5 months before I had this Bumble experience, I was doing a lot of SP manifestation. So special person, soulmate manifestation. I was doing some meditation. I was writing in my journal of things that I wanted in a soulmate. I have a lot of videos on here that I actually made about that, about how to like manifest your soulmate and things that you can do. There's a lot of great creators on here, which I will tag all of those down below, and I'll also tag the manifestation videos that I made. But I was being really intentional about the kind of man that I wanted and the kind of relationship I wanted. Like, I knew I wanted a divine union type of relationship where he was a divine masculine, meaning like he was working on his own evolution and health and emotional maturity, and I was doing the same. And we were both doing shadow work, and together we would meet, we would attract each other, and we would show each other our shadows just by our love. But it would first and foremost be a really safe experience, a really safe relationship where my body felt good, where I felt calm and at peace. And I had never had an experience like that. Like, my 20-year marriage was to a really good man, and like he was a great provider, and I felt very safe with him. I did outgrow the relationship, and I don't necessarily think he was my soulmate, but he wasn't a narcissist. He was a very good man. So I had like a relationship with a good man, and I had a relationship with a narcissist and everything in between. And I knew that like what I wanted was something I had never had before, but I knew it was going to be healthy, and I knew it was going to be two people striving to like really be their most healthy selves, actualized, awake, conscious, and together side by side they're growing and evolving, and the relationship is like this container that helps them to grow and evolve with love and safety. And it also mirrors to them where their deeper wounds are and like more work that they have to do. So I knew like conceptually that's what I wanted. So being on Bumble for that 2 weeks, I matched with a lot of guys, and I'm just going to be honest, I was overwhelmed with the amount of attention I was receiving. And I would sit at my daughter's soccer practice, and I would like try to answer all the messages of guys that I was interested in. Like I was really weeding through and being really picky about anybody I would communicate with. And even then I was really overwhelmed, and it was starting to feel like a job. And the two guys that I met, I had 3 guys kind of rise to the surface. Like they were the cream of the crop, because I always tell men, and I always speak on this app about when you're on dating apps and you're a man, you have to just continue to pursue. If you're really into the woman, don't take it personal that she leaves you on red. Don't take it personal that she's not responding right away. She is inundated with attention. And it is the men that have tenacity, that have resilience, that continue to reach out, that continue to pursue, that get you off the app within a week, ask you out on a date within 2 weeks, plan a date, see you. They're consistent. Those are the ones that get the dates. So I had 3 guys that kind of did that rose to the surface. One I'll call Surfer Guy. He was a really nice man, but he traveled for work. He was like a surf design consultant or surf design like company owner, and he was really nice. And like we talked on the phone a couple times before we went out. He asked me on a date very quickly. We met at a restaurant, and I will just say like there wasn't a lot of chemistry. So then the second guy that I went out with, I detailed on this app, but like I went out with him, and leading up to the date, I had a couple phone conversations with him, and I could tell right out the gate that he was going to be one of those guys that is a bad boy, that's a black sheep. Sure enough, like he was a musician, he was a football coach, he worked in education, which I really liked because I'm also a teacher, but like just I could tell that he had that edginess. And the way I could tell is I was really, really nervous for our date. So like leading up to our date, my heart was beating, I was like stressing out. I ended up wearing this really sexy like cotton like tight dress and like these booties, and I had a black leather moto jacket over it. So even before I met him, I was already dressing like the part to go out with a guy like that. And I hadn't even really put 2 and 2 together. I didn't know for sure if he was that type of a guy. I was just like making assumptions. But it's so funny how subconsciously as women, we know what type of guy they're going to be before we even go out with them. So I end up meeting him at this restaurant like up the street from my house. And sure enough, like I get there, and he is super hot, like big hands, like dark hair, and he's sitting across from me. And I end up telling him like a lot of my life, which I do not recommend doing on a first date. Like sit back and let them talk, let them expose who they are. But very early on in the date, he had kind of exposed to me some red flags. Like these were some of the red flags. Number 1, he said that his ex-wife hated him. He said that he wasn't a good husband to her, which I like it when a man admits when he wasn't mature or grown and like where he messed up, because I think that shows self-awareness, and I think we all have a past, especially men that get married young. But what I didn't like, the red flags I saw in this guy, we'll call him Big Hand Man, was that he would like party all the time. He would go over to her house and party with her, which I don't like, that blurred lines with your ex. Like a man should not be partying or talking with his ex. That means he's probably still sleeping with her, to be quite honest. And I didn't like that. I also didn't like that he said that like she hates him, that she can't stand him. That to me, like I believe a woman first and foremost. And like, I'm just going to be honest with you, it was a vibe. Like he doesn't even have to say anything that's going to show his face. it's a vibe that you get as a woman. You know when a guy's a player, and you know when he's going to be bad news. And my body was just telling me that the whole date. I was like, butterflies. I was like, chemistry. Butterflies and chemistry are your intuition telling you that your nervous system is dysregulated and this person is not a safe person. Like, that's a warning sign. Follow along for part 2.